Daniel Jones. Tashi Yiwei, Fei Sheng Youshu, De Gongyuan. He is a very good worker. You met me at a very Chinese time in my life. I have been thinking about that country a lot this week, especially as it pertains to NFL football. Quarterbacks in NFL football, head coaches in NFL football, and team building, team structures, hierarchies in American football. And for as confident as I am that this intro of mine here probably got your attention, because who else has ever spoken Chinese when talking about Daniel Jones, I am equally confident that you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about right now, and that I should probably elaborate ASAP on where I'm coming from. So here's where I'm at. Football is a people game. The sport of football is. All sports are. And it's also a management game, right? There are hierarchies. There are power structures here. And the thing about power structures and people is that there are objectively, like just when you look out across the world, at the globe, from like an alien perspective, outsider perspective, there are provably, undeniably, a number of different ways to successfully manage people. There's no one right answer. Maybe morally there is, maybe you believe that, but if success is the goal here, which generally speaking it is, it's the definition of success that varies. If success though, progress, victory of some sort is the goal, I do think everybody would agree then that just like from an evidence-based, outcome-based perspective, there are different systems in this world that work, and they all say different things about human nature. And here's why I'm thinking about China specifically. So there's this author, Dan Wang, he wrote a book recently. It was titled Breakneck: China's Quest to Engineer the Future. And in the book, in Wang's press tour for the book, he has frequently made the argument online that the difference between China and America is that China is a state run by engineers from the top down, while America, the United States of America, is a lawyer state, a state ran by lawyers for lawyers. That is how this system is set up. And I think that's interesting. Now, Wang in the book does not make an argument, a pitch for whether or not one system is superior to the other. In fact, again, if success here is the lens, then both of these countries have had plenty of that. They're two of the most powerful countries in the world. And so I think the thing that's really thought-provoking here that enables me to draw parallels between China, America, and football is examining the differences between these two types of systems and the gaps in success here. What the strengths of one system, one approach might be, and what it says about people, as opposed to the other, and the inherent risks that may come with one and not the other. And to be clear, this right here is the extent to which I'm going to be talking about the countries part. This is not a video on USA versus China. This is a video about a similar sort of dichotomy that I see unfolding in the NFL these days between lawyerly teams and engineered teams. I'll go one step further. In fact, lawyerly parts of plays and engineered parts of plays. I know that sounds ridiculous. Stick with me, and I think I can make it make sense. I think the jumping off point here, when it comes to talking about these structures in general, whether or not it pertains to football or the United States, is to address the whole lawyer thing first, right? Because the term engineer, that's very straightforward. You understand what that means. A bunch of people coming together, running numbers here, and projecting, forecasting, using math, physics, etc. to set a certain outcome, planned outcome in motion. It's pretty black and white, engineering is, or it should be. And there is a part of human nature, of animal behavior, that is black and white, is science. Which is why China is such a developed, advanced country when it comes to, their trains, their bridges, all of that stuff. Again, I'm not going to go too far into that. But yeah, engineering, that makes sense. Lawyering, that's more of a vague, broad term. What are we talking about when we say that? To me, it's this, and you probably took history, you know what I'm about to say maybe. It has to do with the Enlightenment and freedom of thought, foundational pillars in American culture. The idea that every single person has individual liberties and freedoms that cannot be infringed upon by the government. That every person is their own person, and that we cannot be engineered, maybe not to the same full extent at least, as a country like China might try to engineer us. I mean, you know all the American stereotypes, right? Don't tread on me. We have free internet. I think that's the biggest difference between America and China. Say what you want about how the powers that be do in fact control us like sheep and hurt us and profile us on a large scale. At the end of the day, America is an extremely individualistic country. And China is not. They have one central government, right? So let's bring that back to football here. What does that look like in the game of football? Well, I know I began this video talking about Daniel Jones, but I'm going to pivot for a quick second to a different guy in this league who is equally inspirational when it comes to this video, this subject, that being Kyler Murray. At the time of me recording this video, a video which I hope will be timeless for the duration of this NFL season because it's a big picture point about the NFL season. Nonetheless, though, a video that is coming after week 7, there are currently very real conversations in football about whether or not Kyler Murray is going to be benched this year. Benched for Jacoby Brissett. That's a big deal. Like, if I explain that to my mom, the situation, the context, what the Arizona Cardinals' expectations were for this year, where they drafted Kyler Murray, how much they have paid Kyler Murray, and what the current vibe is with Kyler Murray, she and most other casual football fans would be pretty taken aback because this is not a situation you see often. One of the most talented quarterbacks physically in the sport, at the very least, one of the quickest, with one of the strongest arms. He is lacking in one major department, but being outperformed by an unk of a backup. A traditional, old school, extremely unathletic, relatively speaking, backup quarterback journeyman who by no means was expected to run the Cardinals offense better than Murray. But that he has done. Against the Colts, Jacoby Brissett threw for 320 passing yards. Kyler Murray has netted 300 or more passing yards once in a game in the last 3 seasons. Just last week, again at the time of me recording this, Jacoby Brissett nearly took down the Packers, one of the best defenses in football. One week he did this without Marvin Harrison Jr. Both weeks he's done this making some pretty incredible throws downfield. He likes throwing in between the numbers. He is a very obedient quarterback, and the reason for his success in these games has been his blind faith, or maybe not blind, but trust in the system that he is being asked to run. The engineered system. I don't need to be the one to tell you this. In fact, a lot of data could tell you this. I'm sure you already kind of know this. But Kyler Murray is an extremely individualistic quarterback. He is a free thinker. He is one of many free thinkers in this sport, but he is one of the most obvious examples of a free thinker. Because few quarterbacks in this game try to do more on their own by themselves than Kyler Murray, out of structure, beyond the engineered part of a football play. Remember how I said that I was going to, try to split up even football plays down to an engineered part and a free-thinking, individualistic, lawyerly part? Well, that's what I'm doing right here. There is a part of a play that is collective and communal, the scripted, planned operation that all 11 guys are working towards together. That is one part of every single football play. That is a big part of football games. There is also, though, a part of a play after a couple of seconds where there is no longer a plan, where everybody has to improvise and be themselves without instruction, top-down command. That second half of plays seems to be, from a zoomed-out large-scale perspective, Kyler Murray's favorite part of plays. Because Kyler Murray is fast. He has a great arm. He has incredible reflexes. He believes in himself, and so he likes when he gets to think freely. Again, Kyler Murray is a very individualistic quarterback, and I don't mean to just sound like I'm profiling from afar. I thought there was a really interesting quote from Brian Schottenheimer this offseason talking about Clayton Adams, the Cowboys' new offensive coordinator, former Cardinals line coach. Apparently, Adams said that Murray really doesn't like running the football. He would rather pass. He would rather have the ball in his hands. Again, I think that's because he's an individualistic player. He wants that responsibility, and one final time, that ability to think freely. There are many quarterbacks like Kyler Murray in football. More and more, it has become increasingly apparent that you need a free thinker. In fact, to succeed in the game of football, you need a quarterback who is capable of thinking freely, I should say. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, just naming names here. Dual threat guys are the first to come to mind. But you need quarterbacks who are able to operate out of structure, able to engineer for themselves when team engineering is not able to take them the distance. That human element is a huge part of sports, always has been, and now as quarterback bodies are catching up to quarterback minds, it's never been more clear that this is a big part of the sport, and a big part of the world. Collective masses still need great leaders who can think on their own. The interesting thing, though, I think, about this point in NFL history, and these truths that we are now grappling with, is, well, the China of it all here. The fact that even at this time, this still very clearly, arguably more clearly than ever, is not the only path to success, is not a requisite for success, not entirely. Because right now, as I speak, there are some football teams that are operating more on the engineering side of things than anything else, and still seeing plenty of success, still reminding us that football is a team sport. Daniel Jones for a while now has been regarded as one of the worst free thinkers in football. Me personally, I've always thought he's a bit underrated. We know he can scramble. We know every now and then he has a pretty good idea. But we also do know in large part that you don't want the fate of your team, of your offense, resting in his hands and in his leadership. He is known to make bozo plays, have the bozo gene. And he's not alone here. Mac Jones and the 5-2 49ers are excelling right now. Jimmy G, not too long ago, was bringing the 49ers to a Super Bowl. It is still extremely possible, even in the big 2025, to have a very successful team system while still being more of a collective engineered operation, being an engineer state. And that's pretty funny, is it not? I mean, nobody saw the Colts being as good as they were this year. Like, literally nobody. That's one of the beautiful things about football. Last year it was the Vikings, right? With Sam Darnold. At that time, labeled as an extremely idiotic, silly, bozo-gened free thinker, who all of a sudden, with the right leadership and guidance and communal support, collective support, engineered support, he took over football last year. We know that different systems can work, and we know that there's nuance here. We know that truth lies somewhere in the middle, the balance for all of this. But I'm sure we also do still have a lot of questions about, how do we refine our understanding of these systems and of this balance? How do we develop our own personal philosophy, stance on these different systems and what works? And what might the future of football hold? What should we look for if we want a free thinker to guide our system, lead it? What red flags should there be? How do coaches, the head engineers, tie into this? I have one more angle on this, one more pretty stupid angle, that is also sticking out in my mind right now, specifically because of the Broncos-Giants game this last week and the dynamic that I see between each of those teams' head coaches and their quarterbacks. We're taking the paternity angle next, because after all, in China, they call their chairman father, grandfather. System leaders and paternal roles, there are parallels there too. So that's what I'm gonna do next. But first, thank you to ArenaClub for sponsoring today's video. I believe that ArenaClub is the future of trading and collecting sports things, sports cards. A place that combines the childhood feeling of collecting, stacking, hunting with modern technology, On ArenaClub, you can open slab packs and rip a wide range of packs, starting at $25 and up for a number of different sports concepts. You get authentic graded cards instantly, and with every slab pack, ArenaClub will make you an instant offer for your card based on its market value. From there, you can decide, you can hold, sell, or have it shipped directly to you. Yes, like the real physical card. The packs are digital, but the cards are real. ArenaClub also shows you what may lie within your potential packs and the likelihood of you pulling those things. Me personally, I recently opted for a Ruby pack, and I went ahead and pulled Jordan Love. Pretty sick if you ask me. I mean, the Packers are Super Bowl favorites. This one seems like a good one to hold on to. And so if you want to see what you might pull and start a collection going for yourself, you know where to go. ArenaClub. Right now, you can get $20 off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/ESQANT and using code ESQANT. Thanks again to ArenaClub for sponsoring this video, helping make this thing possible. Now back to it. Okay, so paternity. System leaders, system engineers, lead engineers versus their systems here, and the engines that make their systems go, the quarterbacks. What do we know for sure about what works and what doesn't? I think it's worth looking around, and I think a good place to start when looking around would be to look at the most successful team in football, the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes' personality profile and player profile is that of a quarterback who is a genius free thinker, right? Incredibly talented, incredibly logically gifted, incredibly quick in the brain, and incredibly fast to pick up new traits, new skills. He is one of the most adaptable quarterbacks to ever have played this sport. He's already gone through multiple iterations as a QB. If you're a father of a guy like this, if you're trying to engineer a system and this is the engine that you're handed, I think it's pretty clear that you want a coach who lets that player be that player, lets that person, that kid, be that kid. Andy Reid is the perfect pairing for a guy like Patrick Mahomes because, and this is one of my favorite anecdotes ever, it's from NFL Films. Apparently, ever since like way back in the day, Andy Reid has had a note card on his desk when he works. And the note card says one thing: don't judge. You are here to bring out the best in every player. Something like that. Andy Reid is the ultimate non-judgmental, chiller, yet disciplinarian parent, right? The job of a parent, just generally speaking, is to be like, the frontal lobe or whatever for their child until that child matures on their own. The parent is supposed to tell the kid what they're going to need for the real world and how to get it. Reed has always done just that. I mean, there's really no negative things to say about him. He is flexible, but he is strict. These are the two known things about Andy Reid. He's got one of the toughest off-season training camp regimens in football, and yet he's one of the most open-minded play callers in football. That works, and that has always worked. Just as a, dynamic thing, right? That type of parent, that type of kid, gifted on gifted. And I think that stacks up interestingly to, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. I think that's another one to quickly address. Brainstorm over. Bill Belichick is the ultimate disciplinarian, strict parent who will never praise, who will always push you harder, always demand more. That works perfectly when the kid here, so to speak, is the ultimate competitor, and that we all know Tom Brady is. He welcomes that challenge. He wants that challenge. He demands that challenge, and that competitive loop here, feedback loop, is a free money generator, a success generator, a dynasty generator, right? Some kids just don't ask why. They blindly trust that parent, and they are born to please. They want to win so bad that they will do whatever that parent demands. And maybe someday that might end in a semi-toxic falling out, but I'll be damned if the test scores are not great in the meantime. Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh is another one that pops to my mind pretty quickly. I mean, we're running over some of the best pairings in football, right? Harbaugh, say what you want about him as a schematic mind, he is like a hard ass, but also like a kind, caring person. He has believed in Lamar since the beginning, and he praises Lamar more than maybe anybody else. And that's high praise coming from me. Lamar is kind of like that misunderstood gifted kid, right? The one who the system keeps failing, like the ADHD or something. Like Demigod from Percy Jackson, where all the teachers say, this guy's a mess. He needs to get it together for the real world. And Harbaugh's that dad who goes, no, I got this. Let me handle this. I think for as much as the Ravens have disappointed me this year, and disappointed in general when it comes to the playoffs, it's hard to deny that the bond that Harbaugh and Lamar seem to have, that pairing, is one that you would like, one that you love to see. A parent figure here who demands that their kid think freely as much as they can, and who watches proudly as that kid figures it out, puts it together. The parent who sees that gift in that kid from a very early age. When I think about pairings that don't work, in contrast to this, it's hard not to have Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel come to mind with the current state of the Miami Dolphins. Now, I've got to pick my words carefully here, choose them carefully, because I don't want to hurl insults at a quarterback like Tua, who is still a professional football quarterback, but I am trying to keep my analogy here going. I'm trying to figurative language max here. If we're doing this free thinker thing, as opposed to engineered system thing, I think that Tua is one of the most interesting machines in this sport, engines, because he is one of the worst free thinkers in the game. And he always kind of has been. Tua is not great out of structure. Tua is not great when the play collapses. Tua is like, all due respect to my STEM people here, that guy who was like the math whiz in school, who would collapse, break down every time he had to write the English paper, you know? Some things just click for some people and other things don't, and that's always been the type of person that Tua is. And Mike McDaniel, I respect him a lot. I think he's a fantastic engineer. He engineered an incredible offense for a pretty significant stretch there. But in recent years here, no thanks to Chris Greer, the engineered system itself has started to crumble. I don't know how much of that was Mike McDaniel. I don't know how much of that was the GM, but the pieces around Tua started falling apart. And the calculations that he was being asked to do, they were getting harder. And the stakes for those calculations were being raised. And all of this amounted to a quarterback who was asked far more often in the past 2 years to think for himself, to lead the system. That system on a play-to-play basis, to create out of structure more, compensate more, solve problems himself more. And it just didn't really work. Because this pairing, it just didn't allow that to work, and Tua kind of didn't allow that to work. Mike McDaniel and Tua is an interesting pairing to me, a funny pairing, also just because I do kind of see parallels to the chill dad, who maybe figured things out for himself. He worked out a good life, good system, but who's kind of no use when their kid is burning out or whatever. They don't exactly rule with an iron hand. I think there's just something to be said for this pairing not being that great. The parent who's a bit lax, and the kid who's struggling. You know? It did work for a while though, and so I don't want to look past that. Maybe in another life this would have worked, in a better system. Because the cool thing about these types of parents is they really do support their kids and let them be themselves. You did see that early Tua here, as opposed to Brian Flores as his head coach. He really did praise Mike McDaniel for how much McDaniel asked him to be himself. And so as I'm going down the line here, listing off parent-kid combos, leader-engine combos within systems, like I said before, I do think this leaves us with a lot of questions. And so So I want to end with two quarterbacks, two pairings, who I believe reveal to us quite a bit about these questions and their subsequent answers. In a system that demands free thought, be that a lot or be that a little, be that Chinese or be that American, what creates the best free thought? What creates the best free thinkers? And how do we get everybody to be that? Or how do we bring out the best in everybody, I should say? Because some people are just naturally better free thinkers in the game of football and more curious people outside of the game. To me, I think the answer, or hints of the answer, lie in the two teams I brought up first for this segment, the Denver Broncos and the New York Giants. Two teams with incredibly intense father figure leaders, incredibly demanding guys, and two bucking Bronco quarterbacks, where truly anything could be on the table. These guys could end up being idiots out of structure by the time it's all said and done, but these guys have also showed a lot of flash, a lot of promise, and things might just work out for both in the extremely long run here. They have the foundational talent, right? The physical talent. To me, the thing that stands out about both Jackson Dart and Bo Nix is this. They are confident guys, sometimes worryingly so, sometimes bordering on arrogant, sometimes bordering on delusional. But as some of you may know, I have made a video on this very channel before talking about how important I think it is to be delusional in the action phase when you are trying to accomplish something. I think that there's generally this understanding when it comes to, a free-thinking leader, that you have to be smart above all else, that you have to be like the most intellectual person ever. You need to, be a math whiz, be a history whiz, have spent your whole life with your nose in the books or something. Maybe you just have that quick gift, right? Great memory. You learn faster than others. Smarts, though, is the thing that has always been put on the pedestal. And I think the thing that stands out to me about Dart and Nix again is the fact that I think they're great examples of why I disagree with that notion. You do not have to be smart. You have to be self-assured. And you have to be intentional. Because to me, the difference between confidence, which is a virtue, and arrogance, which is not, is intentionality, justification, the ability to explain, defend oneself. Do you have an identity? Do you have a sense of self? Do you know your limits? Do you know your strengths? Do you know your weaknesses? And do you know how you want to embrace the former and improve upon the latter? Say what you want overall about a guy like Jackson Dart or a guy like Bo Nix. I think that both of these guys, generally speaking, have been playing to their strengths from a young age. And I do think that both of these guys, while arrogant, while extremely confident and reckless, can, in the long run here, begin to understand their weaknesses and adjust them, curb them. And in the meantime, I think their father figures here have done a great job of addressing that for them. I think we are entering the stage of quarterbacking in football and, privilege in society, where almost everybody now has the potential to be great. The tools are there. The guidance is there. It's at your fingertips. Information, education, resources. And I think that when this becomes the case in the game of football, or again, beyond it, it really is just determination and hard work that sets apart success from failure. That and, again to the point of this video, guidance, leadership, parental roles. When I'm thinking about a quarterback and trying to project them forward, when I'm thinking about a person and trying to project them forward, I just find it really silly now to write off anyone or anything ahead of time, especially if they're confident, especially if they have a sense of identity. I think that if you can explain what you do and why you do it from a young age, then you can definitely do it from an old age. And the only difference between the young and the old is the amount of self-awareness that you gain, that you have, the veterans and the rookies. Sure, certain guys, certain personalities here, builds, might have better built-in natural answers than others, more privileged situations, circumstances, and some guys might be working with less, but overall, the best winners are the self-aware ones. The ones who respect the system, and respect and know themselves. You have to know the rules in order to break them, right? So to tie this back one final time to this USA versus China, free thinking versus engineering launchpad point that I used to start this video. It's funny, I'm realizing now I hardly even talked about Daniel Jones and the system that he's running with confidence and self-assurance, but I think the key here, regardless of system, is to just be able to understand the difference between success for you as an individual and success for you as a member of society. To understand that symbiotic idea, that concept concept that you should prioritize the success of the collective, of the communal, of society, but that you should never sacrifice the former, your happiness, your peace as an individual. I mean, after all, don't they say that true happiness is only real when shared? I don't know if any of this makes sense to you. I'm actually kind of throwing myself for a loop at this point, but I do think that this balance, just in general, between the individual and the collective is one of the most interesting parts of the world today, on a sports scale and on a macro scale. And as always, I don't claim to have the answers. All I can do here is offer my own perspective, my confident, I suppose, perspective, because I mean, I'm putting it out on the internet, right? And my self-assured perspective, because these are things that I genuinely believe. That final step here then for me is self-awareness, right? Opening myself up to criticism, discourse, comments. Please tell me what you think about all of these thoughts. Thank you as always for sticking around if you've made it this far, and I hope you come back next week for whatever I have planned next to keep this conversation going. See ya.